Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Arcars podcast. Today, we are unfortunately a man short, but it is going to be me and Hunter Reeve today. So, say hi, Hunter.
Hi, Hunter.
See, there you go. So today is going to be, we may not go as tangent-y, if only just because there's a lot of kind of topic-y things to talk about, or maybe we will. Maybe we'll latch on to a tangent. So, we'll see where it goes.
We're gonna talk about iRacing for another hour.
You know what? Yeah, we might as well just talk about iRacing. Let's just throw
Fuck
this
it.
whole script out the window, and if anything, I'll go grab my rig. My rig is not in my car; it's on that side of the house. By the way, for those of you guys who are listening to this, I got my camera stuff kind of situated for the garage. So if you can imagine a white wide-bodied S2000 in the background. And the video, because of my lighting situation, actually looks like it's green screened in, but it's not. It's just one light source there, light source from the ceiling. They're different colors. It's fun. I aim to have that squared away at some point, but I'm not rich and made of money, and, we're not putting that much effort into it until things get rolling. So, for those of you guys who are just listening, then, none of this matters to you whatsoever. But feel free to check out, because this one will be posted on YouTube once we're done with it. So if you like the visual aspect, feel free to hop on there, and then you can watch me, because it will be just me, because Hunter still doesn't have a webcam yet, because, he's living
Nope.
in 1993, back when webcams were like 150. Actually, technically, webcams still are 150, but honestly, webcams really haven't changed that much in price, I feel like. Because I genuinely remember, the first webcam I got was, 150 or 160 bucks. And it was, a piece of toast. But
Yeah, exactly.
But it was the same price range, and it was top of the line for its time. So, I guess buy stocks and webcams because they stay the same price? Question mark? Actually, I think that would go the opposite way, because it means that they don't adjust for inflation, so instead of stable, it's actually losing money.
I did some left-handed Googling. You can get them for like $19.
That's true. That's true. If you actually, you know what? The webcam I'm using right now is $50. But if you do get a
From
top
Wish.
tier, if you get a top tier one, you can the new Logitech. It's the successor to the whatever this one I'm using is now that has Windows Hello recognition. That one is $120 or something like that when it's not on sale. I want to buy that one for my desktop setup, but at the same time, race car.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, the $50 version will work, and I need to buy another one so I can just permanently have one attached to my tripod instead of pulling this one off of my computer every single time I need to podcast, and then forgetting to put it back on for a week and a half because I'm lazy. So, anywho, I'm gonna branch off of that technology tangent, and we're gonna actually get to the meat and potatoes at hand, ladies and gentlemen. Which, actually, you know what, Hunter? Do you want to kick this one off, since you probably know a little bit more about the situation than I do? I know the bits and pieces, but I don't know the finer, the P's and the... I was about to say the P's and the Q's, but I was literally talking about P's as in the food, and Q's aren't a food, unless you get, SpaghettiOs. Are Q's a SpaghettiO? Is there
Stop.
a Q in...
Just stop. Just stop.
Alright, run with it.
Okay. Sebastian Vettel's leaving Ferrari.
Hasta la bye-bye.
And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's always going to be a bunch. Well, there is seat swaps now, so Carlos Sainz will replace him. Ricardo's going McLaren. I don't know who's going to go to Renault. They're still talking about that.
Can I just say...
I think Vettel's just going to retire, if I'm completely honest. I think he's just going to say, all right, well, I won four world championships. I have an ass ton of money. I'm going to go fuck off now.
Well, and it's where else could he go? I mean, what? Go with Williams or some shit and drive a car that doesn't work half the time?
Well, I mean, the other thought, my other thought too is that he might, if the Ferrari IndyCar thing happens,
that would be hilarious if he went
might
to
do that.
IndyCar.
he might.
But I mean, I feel because part of the reason why he's leaving, we at least fairly decently know is like there's some political issue there. But I mean, I guess the issue really could have just been like, you know, if he didn't feel like the car was up to snuff. But did he think the car was not up to snuff? Who knows? He does.
No, I just think they want to put Leclerc on equal footing as him and not treat Leclerc as a number two anymore. And I think Vettel doesn't want that, and he's leaving.
Yeah,
I could be completely wrong.
That's fair enough, actually. I mean, it does make sense, because that's the other thing, too, that's always kind of funny about the dynamic in F1 teams is that, like, obviously you are still racing your teammate, and for all intents and purposes, like, it's not just like, I'm racing you, buddy, haha, finger gun. It's like, no legit, I want everything for myself. He's here because he has to be. I would rather him not be there and be, another car that I have to pass. And likewise, also, if Ferrari wants Leclerc to be their new number one, then that means that he's gonna get those really sucky calls of, let him pass, and it's like, frack.
Yeah, exactly.
Because no one wants to let someone pass, especially because, dude, that's the worst thing about letting someone pass is, like, you just lose so much momentum, like, mentally, emotionally, and literally, because it's just, like, it's that moment where you have to let off the gas a little bit, or you have to give up a line, and it's just, like, there's just so much going on in your head when it happens, it really does screw you up more than, like, you would think. It's not just like, oh, let him by, and then you keep... Because the other thing, too, is it's like, you're not racing him anymore. You've been given the request to let him pass, which means if he's slowing you down in any way, the person behind you is going to be catching up to you, and you're suddenly fighting to not take a position and not lose a position. And that's the really crappy situation you end up with when you're on a team. Like, and the worst thing is as far as a manufacturer is concerned, they want both of their drivers to win. And so that means that, they're going to let things kind of go. But for all intents and purposes, you would be happiest if your teammate was 5 cars back and you don't even have to think about them.
Yeah.
Because that is, like, in a lot of ways, your teammate is your biggest threat because they're the only one you can't attack. You can't go full in. Or, if you do, then you end up with moments like, was it 2018 where Force India crashed each other and it was 2 DNFs simultaneously? The team formerly known as Force India?
Yeah, Racing Point. Lance Stroll thinks Dad Racing.
But yeah, and you just have like I think it was in 2018 there was like 2 different moments like that. There was like a moment where the 2 Force India / Racing Point cars crashed into each other, and then there was another point where 2 Red Bull cars collided. I don't remember if it took both of them out of the race or if it just took one of them out of the race, but it's just like moments like that are just embarrassing in every way, shape, and form because it ruins it for the whole team, but at the same time, it creates so much social animosity because it's like, whoever's fault it is, you're like, I will hurt you in the locker room tonight with a ballpoint pen. So, yeah, I could, coming back, to the initial idea of, if Ferrari says, we want you to be number 2 now, it's like, well, then I'm not racing anymore because you're telling me not to race. And I think they've even said that out loud. Like, I don't remember who it was, but I vividly remember like one of them saying that like over the radio or even saying it afterward. It's like, you're telling me not to race and da 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 da, and that's how they feel about it. Also, can I just say how hilarious it is? Like, I love whenever somebody leaves Ferrari or Mercedes because it causes this concussive wave of musical chairs.
Yeah, it's always hilarious.
Yeah, because it's always like whoever is like it's either one of the Mercedes guys or one of the Red Bull guys wants to jump up to the Ferrari or to the Mercedes or whatever, and then that creates a hole in a vacuum the top three. So the top three do a bunch of huffle shuffle. Somebody usually gets squirted out the back end. So that means that then there's a whole, like, in this case it's Vettel. Which means then, out of the best of the rest, they're all like, I got a chance! I get a real car! I get to be a real racer now! Yep. Yay! And it's just a question of who. Because there really is so much talent in the best of the rest, and I really do think that there's at least 3 drivers who could straight up who could straight up replace Vettel if they had to, and they just need a better car to compete in. And so, that being said, we're gonna see some people pop up and around. So right now, though, all of the switcheroos that we know of so far are just Ferrari is switching people around, Renault is switching people around, who else is switching people around? And McLaren is switching people around. But so far, the best of the rest, I don't think we've seen any squirting in or squirting down from there, have we? At least,
no.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, so hopefully, I look forward, because the other thing, too, it's just like, it's such a weird season because, moving forward, we haven't had any races yet. We're hopefully going to have some races here soon. But there's just going to be some really weird, because there's so much time for people to sit on things and to wait for an opportunity to race. And it's going to be a lot harder to tell. Like, it's going to be a lot harder for teams to make their final decisions for next season off of this season because it's a half a season. People haven't had a chance to grow throughout the season and sort out the new car. So it'll definitely be neat. But hey, the upside is, at least with things starting up, we finally get to see, the Mercedes F1, F5, whatever you want to call it, the little fighter jet thing where they do toe in and toe out. I was a little worried that wouldn't get a chance to debut before it was banned.
Yeah. I don't think we'll ever see it again. Honestly, I really don't think there'll be an F1 season this year. I don't think there will be.
You think it'll just be a handful of races and they won't call it anything?
I don't think they'll even turn a lap.
Do you not think they'll take? Because I know that they were supposed to start something up at the end of May. I thought
potentially Austria, but everything keeps getting pushed back.
Oh, did it get? Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess we're still waiting to see. It's just like here in St. Louis right now. Our road race actually got a go ahead. So I'm gonna be working the corner, for that race. And I think we might be able to pull off our first rallycross of the year. Fingers crossed there. But at the same time, I guess it really just does depend on because the other thing too is America is stupid. So there's tons of countries that are actually taking COVID seriously, which means that they're gonna push stuff back if numbers don't get better. Whereas here in America, we just set hard deadlines and then just say, Leroy Jenkins it the rest of the way.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it was like somewhere in New Zealand. I think it was all of New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand is clean.
Yeah, they're pretty much back to normal.
Until, one of the stupid countries like us starts sending our sickies over.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, car stuff.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
So, alright, so just kind of moving along, so some other fun kind of news. So, obviously, whenever we talk about electric cars, one thing kind of comes to mind. It ends up in the tags and all the other stuff, and everyone's like, Tesla! And, but, that being said, it's like, every major company now, like every company that is like a household name, is starting to dibble-dabble into electric cars more and more. And GM is actually, so far, they've apparently announced that they're on schedule for the new GMC Hummer, the Cadillac Lyriq, and the new and the Cruise Origin are all set to actually come out on schedule. So, that being said, it's probably because a lot of the work being done is still, the R&D work, which isn't quite as affected by COVID, since for all intents and purposes, engineers can work from home pretty okay. And if they've got some really strong working prototypes, then you just send Steve home with the prototype to do test drives and other things like that. So I'm actually really looking forward to the GMC Hummer thing. Like I think that is probably going to be one of the coolest electric trucks next to the Cybertruck if it ever actually happens. Which at this point, especially because jumping the gun here a little bit, but not super much. But a lot like the Tesla Roadster and the Cybertruck are both basic. Like they say the Cybertruck is supposed to be on schedule. I do not see it happening on schedule. Like, call me a negative Nancy, but I don't think that the Cybertruck is going to happen next year. Not with the way that things have been going whatsoever. Do you think the Cybertruck's going to happen next year?
I don't think anything is going to happen until next year.
Yeah. So,
that's just the way I look at it.
But that being said, that's why it's kind of impressive that GM believes that they're on schedule to launch their platforms. But again, it's like it's one of the major three, and the major three actually have their shiznit together enough that you can actually expect them to pull this off. Like, you know, Tesla, I don't trust them to do half of what they promise. And I'm actually the least naysayer on our team. Like, I actually like Tesla and I like their cars, and I'm probably, again, one of the few people on the team who genuinely, if somebody handed me $60,000 right now, a Tesla would actually be on my buying list to consider, because I've been looking for a practical daily thing, and it would be nice. But that being said, I still am getting, especially because the stuff that Muskie has been doing recently has been kind of meh. But we'll see. You know what? Actually, since it kind of goes hand in hand, I don't know why I left
annoying.
This so low. Let's go down and we'll talk about that topic a little bit. So now we're actually getting to what I wasn't talking about, which is just that Tesla's been doing some weird stuff. We've from the beginning, you know, once all the lockdown stuff really started happening, Elon Musk was oddly out. Like, so for people who hate him, they're like, yeah, it's on character. He's an idiot. I knew he was an idiot. See. But at least for me, it felt a little like off character, because, you know, it's one thing to like lie about your sales figures and to blow up, you know, how awesome your truck is going to be and do all sorts of weird stuff like that. It's another thing for him to like straight up go against science in like a really boomery way. Because for those of you guys, I mean, if you don't know at this point, you've probably not been following any news, and I'm surprised that you follow us and not a bigger source of news that's already covered this. But he has been very super against quarantine, and let's face it, a lot of it is just because he's feeling the stress of, you know, his company is, despite as successful as it seems, we all know, or at least most of us know, that he's, you know, a few bad events away from Tesla going into the toilet. Like, and it's because they handle everything with that, like, that startup mentality of, like, we've got to burn all of our candles at once and hope that we have enough pans to catch all the wax. And so, yeah, so going into that, you know, we've had, aside, the fact that he doesn't, you know, believe in the quarantine stuff has led to him filing a lawsuit against Alameda County over them not letting him reopen. He eventually he did reach an agreement with them to like return to work, but before that was done, he straight up sent his people back to work when it was illegal. Like, as in, the cops would have every right to come in, say, you're shut down, you're all shut down, and then he was like, I'll go there and I'll get arrested if I have to, and it was just like hilariously, like, not to get political, but it was like hilariously right-winger kind of like talk that he was having, and it was just weird because, again, a person in his situation and with his track record, again, if you hate him, then you think that he's capable of every kind of evil in the world. But at least for me, it did seem just like a weird step off the deep end.
It, yeah, I don't get what that was all about. I think he saw his stock price was going down and he started freaking out. So he sent everybody back to work.
But I mean, I guess at the end of the day, like when you hear about stories about him, like the dude doesn't sleep, he doesn't go home, and a bunch of other stuff. Like it's not a justification because at the end of the day, he needs to manage himself. But he's not doing things that will keep him mentally stable. So you know, Godspeed to you, Muskie. Figure out your stuff. Oh, also another fun downside. The self driving DLC for Teslas is now $1,000 more expensive, so that's fun.
Oh, cool.
It was already a feature, and now it's not going to be, which is just kind of more like Tesla just does so much weird stuff when it comes to their software. Like the fact that all of their Teslas or all the Model S's, it was either all the Model S's or all the Model 3s come with the same battery because they don't really have the infrastructure to produce multiple batteries. So your range is a DLC. If you buy the one with lower range, you're literally a software update away from getting more range out of your battery. And it's like in the software world, we're used to that. It's like, oh yeah, this feature is hidden behind a paywall. But in the car world, it's definitely kind of a little Jimmy rustling. So for people who are used to,
Yeah,
yeah, like for people who are used
it's
to it, go for it. Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
no, it's a little annoying. Yeah,
And I mean, like I said, if you look at it from a software person's point of view, it seems to make sense and seems to be fair. But it's weird when the whole object is physically tangible, and then you can't touch an aspect of it, is way different than when the entire thing is intangible, and then you can't touch a part of it. So, like I said, Tesla, weird stuff. Really, really weird stuff. But hey, getting back to GM though, they're apparently planning on starting up their own Gigafactory. They're probably not going to call it the Gigafactory, which is honestly kind of a shame. Like, I don't know if Gigafactory is trademarked or yeah, trademarked. If it's not, it would be hilarious if it wasn't trademarked and they called it a Gigafactory, just like out of spite. But it's probably going to be called the GM Battery Plant or the GM Battery Fulfillment Center or some boring thing. I mean, look at their platform. Like, I love the Alpha platform Camaro to death. It's an amazing machine, but like, it's such a boring name. Like some people like it. Like it's like it's like the Alpha, like big D energy and all the other stuff. But it's like I mean, they could have called it like the Sabertooth or the Laser Falcon platform. Like, where are our companies with like crazy names like Dodge, boom, Hellcat? The rest of their names are kind of iffy, but you've got Hellcat, you've got Demon, you've got you've got Trailhawk. Trackhawk is a little soft in my opinion. I would have still loved for it to be like something crazy because it's a Hellcat motor in an SUV. It should have been called like. Honestly, it would have been hilarious if they'd called that the Helephant versus calling the 1,000 horsepower crate motor the Helephant.
yeah,
And then
yeah. That'd have been hilarious.
they have the T-Rex, coming out. So it's like they've got some great name stuff, but it's like that's it. Everyone else's stuff is just so like soft.
Yeah, baby soft and smooth.
But yeah, so but that being said, the other thing, some other cool fun things, that GMC Hummer, truck slash SUV is in theory apparently going to be getting removable panels like a Jeep. So like roof panels will come off. They don't mention specifically if the doors are going to come off. Chances are it'll probably just be the roof panels. Especially because as a whole, removable doors is like a big old thing. Like it's Jeep pulls it off by doing some extra weird, sketchy stuff. But that being said, we'll see. But that would be kind of fun, though. Is like you kind of get that open top experience. So how many people do you think are genuinely going to hardcore off road some of these off road EVs that are coming out?
Zero. Absolutely zero.
Because honestly, like, that's always one of those things I think about is, like, one of the funnest things about hitting the trails is that it's in a gas powered vehicle, you can go, like, the whole day on a tank and be fine because you don't have as much, like, idle draw when you're going slow. And that being said, you don't have as much idle draw on an electric thing, but there's still always that kind of range anxiety because it's like if you run out of juice on a trail in your electric thing, it's not like you can run out and go get a little top up charger. Although that would be kind of cool if and when more of these things come out, if we finally start to get like little portable battery banks for these cars, where it's like your emergency tank of gas, which some people would argue is supposed to just be, when your battery says go find a charge, and then you use what's left to get back. But it would be kind of neat if and whenever. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that isn't a thing already for like, because it seems like something that, like, same way that companies have like jump starters. It seems like some companies should have like a little charge thing where it's good for not like a full kilowatt, but maybe like a few. Because I mean, I had a battery bank that was good for like 20,000 milliamp hours. So it's like, and there are bigger ones. So you'd almost wonder if they make something like that so you can charge your car up just a little bit, get like a dozen or so miles out of it.
Yeah.
That being said,
it'll happen eventually at some point once the battery technology gets better and smaller.
Yeah. Let's see. So and then last thing I'll talk about with GM is just that they're also working on their Ultra Cruise hands-off driving stuff, which is their equivalent of autopilot, but they go with a more kind of PC name that doesn't carry connotations. It's like Super Cruise. Honestly, I think it's a dumb name, but oh no, sorry. Super Cruise is the lane keeping thing. Ultra Cruise is the actual autonomous driving. So you got your Super Cruise, you got your Ultra Cruise, then you got your Mega Cruise. I wonder what Mega Cruise is gonna be. That's probably when they're gonna be when they fly. So that being said, just for the sake of giving people's ears a little bit of a rest from my voice running, do you want to talk about this next one, or do you want to talk about the one after that, Hunter?
Actually, yeah, because I'm kind of excited. Well, I am excited about this. The GR hatch is coming to America. We aren't going to get the Yaris, but maybe the Corolla, which would share the same underpinnings and everything like that. I'm actually genuinely excited. I'd love to see what this car is like.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy. Like, Toyota is kind of pulling a 90s Toyota right now, in that, like, over the course of like 3 years, they've suddenly started pumping out all these performance cars. Like, it started with the Supra. Now we're getting we've gotten some GR things internationally, and now that we're potentially getting this GR Corolla, honestly, I think that Toyota is really seeing the market share that they lost from switching. Because I joked about it like tons of times in the past about the fact that Toyota just makes boring stuff now. They make boring, naturally aspirated things, which the naturally aspirated part isn't the boring part. It's just the fact that they made a bunch of appliances for a while. Other than, the 8.6, which for all intents and purposes is still not totally theirs, but it is.
Shut up, no. Yeah, they've made boring cars for the last 20 years.
But yeah, so
15 years.
Yeah, so I definitely really do hope that, because the other thing too is one of my favorite things, I love how people will like crap talk the 3 cylinders because they're small and they're really kind of fuel economy things. But like, in my personal opinion, I would almost rather have a 3-cylinder over a 4-cylinder because they have that uneven exhaust note that makes them like really growly. Like, it's the same thing like with the 5 cylinders, how because again it's an uneven number of strokes and it's a mildly imbalanced engine, you get those really kind of growly characteristics. So I'm hella looking, and I hope, because at least on paper, I do believe that this G, because they haven't really confirmed for sure yet what's going to be in it, but I'm pretty sure they want to get their money's worth out of that little three popper, turbo guy, because they already have talked about putting it
I mean,
in a bunch of things.
isn't it like 230 or 40 horsepower anyway? So like,
And plus, you'll be
yeah,
able to boost its nuts off, so
that's still good.
yeah. I mean, and especially because the Corolla is still like a super like. Actually, I don't even remember how much the Corolla weighs. Let's see. Let me take a look and see how much it weighs. 2020 Toyota, not Toyota Corolla. Yeah, it's the Corolla. Because the Camry's the big boy. Yeah, it weighs 2,900 pounds at the base level and 3,100 pounds when it's fully loaded. So, for all intents and purposes, it's probably like a 3,200 to 3,300 pound car. So, I mean, you're looking at borderline WRX power, but you definitely, you miss out. It's front wheel drive, which isn't like it's not a bad thing. It just means that it's a harder sell against its competition because you've got the Civic Si, which weighs 2,800 pounds and is just a tune away from being able to do more intense stuff. But all in all, it's exciting.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, hell yeah. I would love to take a look at this car when it comes, for sure.
And hold on, because it looks like Brian came looking for us, and exactly what I thought would happen is that I missed the message. So, anywho, alright, so now we're back to talking about it. So, hopefully Toyota figures out, hopefully this play works out for Toyota, because, one of the worst things is I'm in no position to buy a new thing. I talk big talk all the time, but at the end of the day, a lot of these things that I'm saying are great, and I'm glad to see come out. I can't put my money where my mouth is. But that being said, Toyota is a good place to put your money if your mouth wants to go there. Can I take that back? Can I change that?
No.
So, but yeah, so next thing up on the docket, though, so we're falling back into some electric car stuff, but this one is actually really, really freaking cool. So, this guy has, been drag racing and doing tuning stuff for years. I forget the name of the guy because I haven't checked this article since a day ago. But basically, we have our first ever EV drag car to surpass 200 miles in the quarter mile. So, like, that's straight up, standard, quarter mile. Yeah, there you go. I'm using my big brain stuff right now. But still, it's just like, it's a hilarious accomplishment, flat out. Because, obviously, Top Fuel will go a little bit faster, but with a pure EV platform, he was able to make this, insane time. And it's just kind of that extra emphasis on how, electric motors are going to be here to stay, and they're going to start trickling into motorsportsy things. And, people talk about, like, they're like, oh, you can't really tune an electric motor, like, they act like there's this, like, brick wall that somehow makes it to where you can't do anything with electric cars, or some people do, not a lot of people, but some people do. But, like, I mean, this thing is insane. It makes, apparently, to this guy Huff, I missed his first name, it makes 1,950 horsepower and 1,000 foot-pounds of torque out of a brushless AC motor. Like,
crazy.
That's just bonkers. And again, he built this thing and he worked it up. It started slower and it got faster. It's not just like he one-offed this thing and it was perfect on the first try. It's the same formula you do when you're drag racing. Ooh, excuse me. It's the same formula with regular drag racing, only you're just changing different things. But yeah,
Yep.
But Steve Huff is his name, and or no, sorry, yeah, there you go. Yeah, because Don Garlett set the record originally with
that
top
man. you need to learn about Don Garlits there. That's the legend himself, Big Daddy Don Garlits.
Yeah, I will admit my drag racing knowledge is shorter than it should be, and it's
Well, it's
because
terrible.
it's straight up terrible. And it's because I did used to be one of those elitists who was like, it doesn't have turning in it, I don't want it. It's for
I
freaking
don't care.
rednecks and
Yeah.
losers.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yep. 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 I know what you're talking about.
for those of you guys who agree
Those
with
people are
me,
the those
you
people
know,
are the fucking worst.
yeah, if you guys agreed with that statement, you're wrong. Go learn more about it. Go to a drag race.
You're the worst.
It is it is a beautiful sport, and there's so many aspects to it that really do make it racing in and of itself. It's just, again, it's a different focus. It's a very different focus, and it may not be as exciting and as hot, but at least from a camera point of view, because again, it's a car going in a straight line, but still, just watching, like, because I still remember my first ever drag race, and it's just like when it's a race where you have to wear earplugs if you care about your hearing, and you feel it in your like bowels when those cars drive by. Like, it is just
No doubt.
mind-numbingly fast. So, long story short is this guy Steve Huff gets to enjoy the forever fame of being the first person to go 200 miles an hour in the quarter mile in an EV vehicle. And like, that's another thing that's going to be really cool about EV vehicles, is it's a whole nother branch of world records for like new enthusiasts to chase, because there's so many records that are just like unpassable now without an obscene amount of money, because the people who started with it, it's since the beginning of time, to make their cars go faster, to grow their businesses, to find new ways to burn money into their cars. Like, I mean, now if you wanted to just build like a V8 dragster to like, not to, because obviously drag racing in and of itself is not about building the fastest car. It's about consistency. So you can be competitive in anything with that. But if your goal is to shatter speed records, like, get ready to drop mid six figures to low five figures if you want to actually make an impact on the racing world today, like, or on the speed limit, or speed record, on any speed record thing whatsoever. Versus with EVs, I mean, hell, this guy, I mean, who knows how much money, but I doubt that he has a crazy amount of money, he's got a crazy amount of experience put into it, but at the same time, it's like, people are going to be grabbing wrecked Tesla motors and swapping them into golf carts and making the world's fastest golf carts. And, like, dude, the Smart 4.2 is going to be, like, there's going to be so many silly swaps just plopping, these high-torque electric motors into what is essentially, like, a wheelie machine. I really look forward to seeing what people do with it. And also, gas cars aren't going to go anywhere for a while. So,
yeah, probably not. No.
So if you like your gas cars, keep on going.
They're going to be around for a long time.
Yeah. Yep. So this next one I'm going to take for myself, and I'll make sure that there's a link for it in the podcasty thing, so you can take a look, because this one's a visual thing. But so if any of you guys are into Hot Wheels, or more into Hot Wheels than just like going, oh, that's neat, you will know who some of the original staple cars are. Like, you've got oh man, why am of course all my knowledge is gonna fall flat all of a sudden. Like, you've got the like twin engine car. It's like twin screw, something like that. But there's like 10 cars that were like the OG Hot Wheels that have been remade for years, and if you have an original one from the first run, you've got yourself like a small little fortune, if it's still in its box, and all the other fun stuff. And one of those original cars was the Diora, and I've been a huge fan of the Diora ever since I learned its name. I don't know, have we ever talked about, like, Hunter, did you ever see Highway 35?
I think so.
So, for those of you guys who are uninitiated, Highway 35 was a cartoon series that existed entirely to resell Hot Wheels with new paint jobs, because go for it.
No, I never did. I never saw it.
Yeah, so basically the entire movie is like the idea that this mysterious scientist guy gathers drivers from around the world with different skill sets and a bunch of other stuff, and he gives all of them these crazy cars that have, they have nitrous because it was right on the tail end. Like, it came out in like the late 2000s, so it was right on the tail end of when NOS started to, was because it was still cool. It was right before it stopped being cool. And so they all had NOS, which in this movie is this magic juice that makes your car shoot blue lightning and shoot blue flames out of the tires and shoot purple and blue flames out the back and all sorts of crazy stuff. But the idea is that there's this magical racetrack world called Highway 35, and you needed to hit 300 miles per hour, and when you did, this magical portal would open up to take you to Highway 35. So that's why all these cars were equipped with nitrous and crazy stuff, so that they could race. Like, it basically, every time they started with this huge drag race just to hit 300 miles per hour. They all hit NOS and start popping wheelies, and then they would go and race on these racetracks, which were giant Hot Wheels tracks. So long story short, long story short, I say after I tell a long story. But Highway 35... I
think you totally made that up.
I did not make any of this up. Like, legit, you can go online and...
you just made that up.
You can still pirate this movie in different places because it was so many people's childhoods. And it is, like, no joke. Even as a kid, I watched it because it was awesome. And as an adult, I went back and watched it because it's just, like, hilariously awesome. And there was even no joke, there was a spin-off series off of Highway 35 called Highway 35 Acceleracers, and the entire premise of it is it's like 10 years after the events of the first one, and like it's like about the fact that they need to go back because there's like a new Highway 35, and everyone is like gone underground, and so now like a bunch of them are like these hardcore street racers, and they all have like light up tires with like underglow now. Like, it's hilarious. And by the way, I didn't even tell you about the killer robots with flying beams and all sorts of other stuff. So again, leaving that story short now, I won't talk about it anymore because you guys, honestly, words don't do it justice. If you're excited from what I said, go watch it. If you're not excited from what I said, go watch it because it's hilariously awesome. But anyway, long story short is that was my big exposure to Hot Wheels. It's what got me collecting them. Actually, that's a lie. The car that got me first collecting them was an old, it was like an old Porsche race car, and it was like the first Hot Wheels I was ever like, I want this, Mom. And we found it at like a Target randomly one day, and because it wasn't mine, it was like in a toy bin at daycare. So or not daycare, it was like, because I think it was when I was in kindergarten. So it was like so I guess it's still a daycare, but it was, for me being 5. And they had one, so when we found it, I bought it. But my second, my like full head first into it thing was Highway 35. And the main character is this kid, it's not Kurt Wilde, I don't remember what his name is actually. But, long story short is he's a kid who just got his license. So, already the story is kind of fun there because it's like, oh yeah, this kid who just got his license, totally going to be a professional driver doing oh, dang it, bleep bleep, doing freaking loop-de-loops and all sorts of stuff, but, whatever. But his car is the Diora 2, which actually did come out before this show did. So again, the Highway 35 is just like paint jobs on existing Hot Wheels cars. Like, all of the cars, most of the cars existed before the show, and then they just slapped a Highway 35 livery on it. And so the Diora 2 was a car that I latched onto. It was cool, it was weird, and it has so much utility. Like, because I'm a sucker for like weird utility things. Like, I love the Holden Commodore Ute. I have a WRX wagon. This is not a good example. The S2000 is not. But I like those weird... So, like, the idea of, like, this weird mid-engined pickup truck thing with a cockpit that opens on the front like a friggin'... What's that Italian car where the front opens up?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
BMW Isetta.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only the Diora 2 opens up. So instead of opening out to the side, like, what makes sense, it's actually like a hydraulically controlled, like, hatchback, but it's on the front. So, this has all been a very, very long story of telling you why this matters to me, which is that Dodge has unveiled a new concept car for, that is the Dodge Diora, which I'm kind of interested they didn't call it the Diora 3. They just called it the Diora. And I love it. I think it is a really kind of like whack, like, because Hot Wheels are supposed to be wacky. They're supposed to be crazy and inspired by the era that they came out of. Like, the Diora 2 was a very modern, like, it was a very 90s to early 2000s redo of the boxy Diora, which was basically the old Diora, short of the front hatch opening up, was like legit something that probably could have existed back in the 80s, like in terms of its styling. The Diora 2 was a little more wacky because it was kind of bubbly. And no joke, Hot Wheels has like a model, like they have a life-size Diora. And me and my friends figured out when we looked at it in person at the Hot Wheels Legends Tour, it uses a Ford Taurus wagon rear windshield as its front windshield. So if you have seen, yeah, it's literally this big oval. Like that is what the Ford Taurus wagon rear windshield is. So like that, and like I said, they literally were able to pull parts from real cars from the late 90s to early 2000s to put this thing together. So likewise, the new Diora is this crazy spaceship looking crazy thing, and I love it to death. So again, the worst thing is that this was all could have been like 2 minutes, and I lied to you, Hunter, because I've now ranted about it for God knows how long. That is longer than 2 minutes. But like I said, I'll post a link. Take a look at this, and there is your brief history, very brief history on the Diora. On the Hot Wheels Diora platform, air quotes. So now I'm really gonna let people have a rest from my annoying voice, and I will let you talk about this new thing, because I know how much you love talking about electric cars.
No, I'm just kidding. So, well, that's pretty impressive now the more I think about it. But the Mustang Mach-E charges faster than expected. And it's just over half as fast as Tesla.
Did you say half as fast or half?
Half as fast
as
okay. Tesla.
Yeah. Do you want to go into detail?
No, I don't. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. So, anywho, it can get about 60 miles of charge in like 15 minutes when it was supposed to get less. So, yeah, no, honestly, the main reason why I even pulled that in is just I'd love to point out the fact that as the big three start to make, or not even the big three, as the world of like major car manufacturers starts to get into electric cars, they're more and more like time and time again proving that when they say that something is possible, it's not even like a best case scenario. Like half the time in the best case scenario, you'll get better than what they're saying, but they will only put out what they believe is true. So like same thing, like Porsche's real world range is there. It's like off from their, no, they actually, that's right, they voluntarily lowered their EPA rating recently because they didn't feel that it was realistic. And so now it's more in line with what it's actually capable of. So that was just kind of a neat little tidbit, is that the Mach-E was going to be, that.
Very neat tidbit indeed.
Very neat indeed. So do you want to talk about this next one, or do you want me to talk about it?
I mean, I can talk about it. Yeah. I mean, they're not canceling out ATT, which kind of surprises me considering everybody's making SUVs and crossovers. I'm just so tired of SUVs and crossovers. Even though, admittedly, I was looking at an accurate MBX the other day, but that's a different conversation for a different time. But yeah, it looks like the TT is here to stay.
Yeah, which I mean, it's like literally just like sometime late last year was when we found out it was going to get the axe. So it's kind of nice that I've got a little bit longer to save up the money to get myself a little TTRS.
A titters, teeters,
Yeah, a taters.
taters,
Yeah, the tutters. Tutters. Tutters.
Anyway, oh yeah, Ferrari gets crushed by a truck. It's well deserved. I enjoyed reading about it. The guy stopped paying his employees, and yeah, I don't blame him. I'd have ran over his car too.
The sad thing is like as vindicating as it, or not vindicating, but just as justifiable as it feels, like the guy did get arrested and there were charges pressed because obviously he crushed. I think it was a GT4 Luce. Was it a GT4 Lusso or was it an FF?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was a GT4C Lusso, maybe.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's GTC4 Lusso. God, that one is just such a mouthful. But yeah, so but literally he just truck driver just like it's great when you look at the pictures because he really did just like stamp it on top of there and then just left. So that story has obviously been spreading around the web all over the place, but you know, Godspeed to the guy. You know, he'll get to enjoy some prison time, but he did send a good message. So that brings us up to the next thing, which is that so some kind of fun stuff has been happening with the Golf. So we've obviously seen pictures of the new 2021 Golf, and it's actually kind of cool. Like I like that they used that the DRL assembly is like in the grill, and it's not just like behind the grill. It is the grill. So there's like there's five little hexagon diamond things on each side that actually illuminate as the DRL, which was kind of neat. And but unfortunately, if you were really looking forward to buying that next year, tough luck because they decided to upgrade the old model to be a 2021 model, and the new one is not going to come out till 2022 now. So if you had your money perfectly stowed away and you were ready to trade in your Mark 7 Golf so you could get this new Mark 8 Golf, well, if you trade it in, you're going to get the same car, except, you know, with a new number on
it. Yep.
Which is kind of really, it is kind of a bummer, especially because the GT8 is definitely, it's not like 370Z old, but I think the Mark 7 Golf, when did that come out? It came out in maybe 2015, I think. Let's see. Mark 7 Golf. Let's see. The Mark 7 Golf came out 2013. Yeah, so that's a 7-year-old platform.
Yep. It's an older car. Yep.
So hopefully, and obviously it's kind of understood because retooling a plant and training a bunch of people during the COVID crisis is not ideal because, again, it's like training people. You can do as many videos as you want, but training people to physically do something on your car is kind of ideal for them to actually physically touch it versus just going, I know it good enough, I guess. I guess it'd be more, I know it's good enough, I guess. That turned into a Hispanic accent at the end there. I have no idea what I'm doing. But the upside is whenever it does come out, we'll have a bunch of, there'll be more performance stuff. There'll be a handful of new performance variants. Did you get a chance to skim over what all the performance variants were? I'm a terrible person, so I didn't read through all this ahead of time like I was supposed to.
Not yet, no.
Yeah, so let's see. Blah, 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 blah. What's underneath it? So it's got a new, multi-link setup at the rear and a new, basically new suspension stuff. It's got 5% increase in roll stiffness at the front and a 15% increase in the rear. But let's find out what all these fancy trims are. So there's blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's going to get an active suspension setup now. So that'll be kind of, it'll be another one of those affordable cars with adjustable suspension, because that technology is really trickling down at this point. Like, I know my
Oh
mind
yeah,
was still blown by the fact that the 2015 Civic Si came with it standard. Like, at $24,000, you get multiple, well, two suspension modes. Let's see. One thing that's sad, regardless of trim, you're gonna get the same horsepower across the board, except for on the GT40. Let's see. So it looks like we don't have a ton of details about what the other trims are gonna be, but it looks like they're planning a bunch of them. So you can choose presumably, so you can choose between being a really sporty boy or being a really posh sporty boy.
uh, posh sporty boy.
Well, honestly, dude, I talk about this all the time, but I'm still blown away by how comfortable the last gen, like not even Mark 7, the Mark 6 Golf is actually like a really refined little space. My friend got one and I got to ride along in it, and it was just, or no, not even that, I got to drive it. Almost forgot I drove it. And it was one of those things where I was like, wow, this is like the sportiness I'm used to with like a level of comfort I'm not. Like, it was quiet. Yeah. I didn't feel nearly as jarred. It was a well put together little car, and so it's like when you really start layering on the hot stuff, or not the hot stuff, but the soft stuff, it would be a genuine, like, honestly, flat out, if you're a person who likes having like sporty hatchback things and you want to have a daily driver, I think that the Golf is really that solid option. And like I said before, it's really just because it's the mature option. It's the one for when your bones
100%.
hurt. Like,
yep.
You don't want your bones to hurt anymore. Yeah. Or if you don't like lift off oversteer when you're really pushing it, because you don't like, feeling like you're about to die when you really push it, then boom, you got the Golf, because it's notoriously a little more understeery / neutral, which I'm actually really curious, because apparently if they stiffened up the rear, the chassis is different, so at the end of the day you can't really tell much, but if they stiffened up the rear, the new Golf might be a little livelier, but who knows? We'll know 2 years from now. Yay. God, there are so many things I was looking forward to that are pushed back so far now. Like, we were hoping to get the new STI next year, or at least announced by the end of this year. But with Subaru's budget, we're not gonna see it till like 2020 now, or not 2020. It is 2020, 2022. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. God, there's just such a long list of things that we're now really gonna have to wait for. Although on the upside, I just realized, I wonder if we can get a deal on Raptors now. This might be the time to make our Raptor dreams happen.
Are you going to get deals on a lot of things here soon?
I highly doubt I'm going to get a good deal on a Raptor. Like, I'm trying to think. Although I might look, because, dude, that's one of the worst things. I keep bouncing between getting a proper tow vehicle and getting a Raptor and forcing it to tow. Like, because if you ask any tow guy, they're going to immediately shit on its towing performance, because even if you get the crew cab, it's like $7,500 is your cap. There's no package you can get to make it good for 10K, like on the regular F-150. There's no, just like it, and $7,500 is, it's a trailer and a car with a little bit of payload, and even then apparently they don't really like to be beasts of burden because their suspension is soft, so they sag a little bit and a bunch of other stuff. If I got an aluminum trailer, though, I could save some weight, but I would also not save any money because they're like twice as much.
Yes. They're not cheap at all.
Like, dude, I think so. It's like for $1,800, I could get a solid, like, steel and wood trailer that would be good for both of my cars, and the equivalent, literally, it was like $3,200 or something like that. Which, for those of you who are better with money than I am or better off than I am, may sound like a screaming deal, but unfortunately for me, that's a lot of money. And plus, it's a lot of race car part money. This car needs
Indeed.
$2,300 in wheels and tires, so. Which, it's obviously it can't use right now because all of the suspension is gone. It's actually on a shelf over there. That little shelf right there has all of my everything. So it's a Hover S2000 right now. I'm doing that Hover conversion.
Well, I think that just about covers it, doesn't it?
Oh no, we got two more little tidbits, and then after that we've got that will be
I
then
already
that'll be
talked about
everything.
Tesla and Ferrari at the IndyCar.
We didn't talk about Ferrari IndyCar. We talked about that the one dude might go
Oh,
to it, but we didn't actually tell people that they were actually considering it. Or maybe well, I guess you did. Yeah, never
yeah,
mind.
I did.
By the way, Ferrari is potentially considering going into IndyCar because they haven't done anything in F1, and they're like, we need to do something.
Well, it's not just that. It's they'd have to lay off a bunch of people due to the budget cuts. Or not budget cuts, the mandatory budget that's being implemented in F1.
Yeah, because you have to race cars in order to make money racing cars
Yeah, but there's a budget cap now.
in IndyCar or F1.
F1.
Oh yeah. So that'll be really interesting. I'm. How do you feel about the budget cap thing to F1?
Part of me thinks it's great, but part of me, I just don't care. I mean, like, I understand, like, it's kind of a bad look on the sport when to be up front, you're spending $500 million, you know? And I
Yeah,
just, there's been so many people ask, they want new teams, new suppliers, everything. Like no major manufacturer is going to come into Formula One right now because of cost. Like they're just not. They're not going to do it. Win on Sunday, sell Monday just doesn't work anymore. So nobody's hedging their bets on that and doing that. And so nobody like Ford, Toyota, or really Ford or Toyota, the only ones that said anything in the past 3 years. Like I think it was Toyota. Somebody from Toyota said, "What's the point in coming somewhere and spending $150 million and still not being competitive?"
yeah, it's true. So that to be fair, like that's probably one of the really big positive selling points of the cap. But it does definitely mean that Ferrari need or all of the big manufacturers really well. And I guess to be fair though, Mercedes in the least has they do so much more things because like Ferrari isn't exactly pumping out A classes anywhere. So that being
No.
said, yeah, they're not as diversified. So if they're not racing, they're not doing half of what they exist for.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah. So yes. Anyway, the last thing. Do you want to talk about the very last thing that we did actually skip?
Oh yeah. 24 Hours of Le Mans is going to be done virtually this year because of COVID-19, and it's going
Go
to
COVID!
feature.
Yay!
Yeah, and I think it should. I think from what I read, it will have real four drivers to a team. There's be 50 cars, four drivers to a team, two regular like real life drivers and two sim drivers. So that'll be pretty interesting. Be
I
interesting to
like it.
watch.
Yeah.
I do too.
And I forget though. The 24 hours was just delayed, right? Like the actual race.
I don't know. It's the French. They can't make up their mind.
So yeah,
No, I think it's been delayed slightly.
yeah. So either way, at the end of the
I
day,
mean,
we'll
it was supposed to be next month, but
yeah.
it's been moved to September. That's
There
what it
you go.
was.
So yeah, well, here's hoping that the fall actually brings us a bunch of motorsports, and then for those of you guys who watch multiple motorsports, you'll get to not have any free time anymore because you'll be trying to catch up on everything.
Yeah, Indy 500 will be in October.
Something.
No, it can't. It can't be in October. I think it was September, maybe. August 23rd. Okay, well, whatever. I was off. But yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that's all we got for you guys. So, but yeah. So anywho, so that's kind of the biggest hitting points that we really had for this week. As always, huge thank you to everybody who's been listening. You know, long term or short term. I mean, again, keep the same. I guess it's not really a joke as much as a promotion, but it's kind of a joke. If you email me, and actually everybody's email exists now, so you can email either Juan at thecolumnshifters.com or you can email Hunter at thecolumnshifters.com. And if you email us with the secret password of spicy tacos, we'll send you a $10 gift card for some sort of food place that you choose, or some place that provides food. So I guess if your idea of an ideal meal is like the food court at Walmart, then go for it.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, Walmart gift card. Aw, yeah. So that being said, like I said, huge thank you to everybody who listened. Thank you for hopping along with me today, Hunter. And we will be checking in. So it's really funny. Your soundboard stuff like randomly cuts out for no reason sometimes, which is like extra hilarious. So it's like, yep.
Heavenly Father.
All right. Anywho, we're gonna let you guys go. Be good, and like I said, we'll be podcasting again 2 weeks from now. So keep your ears peeled. Oh, and then also, if any of you guys were getting to us through Buzzsprout or through another source, we are officially now on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on TuneIn, and our application is now waiting on iHeartRadio and like 2 or 3 other places. So you can now access us through the actual convenient ways. So that being said, like I said, we'll talk to you guys in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye. Say bye, Hunter.
Bye, Hunter.